I'm Tony T with our NFL Pick Show here for Sunday's action. Well, we have all 14. Before we get into just a couple things, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Free NFL picks are updated all season long. Free picks every day from all the major sports. We also have college football. We have Major League Baseball, NBA coming soon. A good time to subscribe. And also, if you would support our channel, like the video, thumbs up. Greatly appreciate it. Then visit Tony'sPicks.com. We're a multi-capper site showcasing top cappers in our industry here. Click the links and get hot. Sign up to one of our long-term passes. Some of our hot cappers like Mindy, I'm the top unit producer in baseball. We'll take a look at some of our NFL numbers this year. We have some really good performance here in NFL. Guys like Ben, Tiffany, Hollywood Sam, and Ramon. Click the links and get signed up to one of the long-term passes. I'm coming on a pretty good roll here in NFL as well. So get on board. You'll be able to find our premium picks at the top of the page. We've got our free picks there as well on the top of the header. As you scroll, you'll see our latest premium picks, and of course our best bets. Each capper can designate one premium pick per sport per day as a best bet, and many of them have done that, as you can scroll and you'll see there for today, as well as $15 premium pick. Each capper can designate one of their premium picks on their card as a $15 pick to showcase their service to you. And you notice many of our cappers do that, and of course they do that with their best bet. 3 packs are your best value right now on the site. Check out the 3-pack tab. Of course, all profit guarantee. Must turn a profit or the amount you purchase credit back to your account for site credits. That is profit guarantee. Also, our promo code, you can save 20% off all premium pick packages. When you use that promo code TonyT, you can access our page by clicking the link in the description, the All Cappers tab. Get signed up. Also love to hear from you guys, so post your picks in the comments below. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get this one started. Giants and Packers, NFL Pick Sunday. Daniel Jones likely to play. Receivers Robinson, Tony, Golladay, and Shepard out. On defense, their left defensive end out, as is their right end questionable. Receiver Sammy Watkins out for Green Bay with a strong safety questionable. Giants 3-1 after their 20-12 home win to Chicago Bears. A strong running performance by the Giants in the win. 262 yards on 44 carries. They did give up 149 rushing yards on 32 carries, but held Chicago to 0 of 3 inside the red zone. With the run game going, Daniel Jones just 8 of 13 for 71 yards, 5.5 yards per attempt. On the season, Jones completing 64% of his passes for a career low 6 yards per pass attempt. Green Bay 3-1 coming off a 27-24 home win in New England in overtime. Balanced offensive attack for the Packers with the run game generated 199 yards on 35 carries. They did convert 3 of 4 inside the red zone. Packers contained the pass but did allow 167 rushing yards on 33 carries. Aaron Rodgers did complete 60% of his passes, 7.2 yards per attempt. And the Giants running for 5.7 yards a carry on the season, with the Packers giving up 5 yards per attempt. But the Giants surrendering 3.5 sacks a game, and the Packers getting pressure on the quarterback. But Jones, again, dealing with cluster injuries in his receiving staff. But the Packers' offense just don't appear to be in sync with his receivers just yet. So let's go ahead and take the points here. The Giants +8. Chargers and Browns NFL pick here for Sunday. Keenan Allen out for the Chargers and receiver Palmer questionable. Joey Bosa out on defense. Cleveland healthy on offense and on defense. Tackle Bryant and their end Clowney questionable. Chargers improved to 2-2, and that was after their 34-24, and that was a road win at the Houston Texans. Chargers run game continued to struggle. They were bailed out really by their passing game. Good defensive performance by LA, holding the Texans to 346 yards. Justin Herbert completed 69% of his passes, a season high 8.7 yards per pass attempt. Cleveland dropped to 2-2 after their 23-20 road defeat at Atlanta. Facing a slew of injuries on defense, the Browns gave up 202 rushing yards on 35 carries in defeat. Browns, a good running team, did rush for 177 yards on 35 carries. Team was only 1 of 3 in the red zone. Jacoby Brissett completed 60% in the loss with 6.7 yards per attempt. Back-to-back road games for the Chargers. One-dimensional offense here for the Chargers as their run game has just been bad. Cleveland runs for 5 yards a carry, and the Chargers giving up 5.4 yards per carry on the ground. Plus, there's no Joey Bosa for the Chargers in this one. Pass defense has been good for the Browns. Play here will be the Cleveland Browns here at +1.5. Lions and Patriots NFL pick Sunday. Detroit on offense will be without running back Swift, receiver Chark, and their fullback. Receivers Brown and Reynolds questionable, as is their guard, Jackson. On defense, Lions are without a defensive end and a linebacker questionable. Mac Jones doubtful with receivers Myers questionable. On defense, Hernandez out with a safety and corner questionable. Detroit fell to 1-3 with their 48-45 home defeat to Seattle. The offense showed well behind 520 yards, but the defense, the bad news here, gave up 555 yards, 235 rushing, 320 through the air. Jared Goff completed 2/3 of his passes, 66.7% in the loss, averaging a season high so far, 9.7 yards per attempt. A season-wide, Goff completing 61%, 7.5 yards per attempt. New England 1-3 after a 27-24 road defeat at Green Bay. New England tied a season low with 271 yards. Run game produced 167 yards on 33 carries. Defense struggled to stop the Packers' ground attack, surrendering 199 yards on 35 carries. Rookie Bailey Zappi, expected starter, he did complete 66.7% of his passes in defeat with a touchdown, 6.6 yards per attempt. The Lions' defense, a major issue here, has given up 444 yards, 5.6 yards to carry on the ground. Concerning, really, the number of injuries on the Lions' side as well. The play will be New England -3. Falcons and Buccaneers NFL pick Sunday. Tight end Pitts out for the Falcons. On the Bucs side, tight end Braid out with Julio Jones questionable. On defense, defensive end Hicks out. Atlanta moved to 2-2 after their 23-20 home win to the Cleveland Browns. The Falcons had their ground game going here. 202 yards on 35 carries. Defensively, they did allow 177 yards on the ground to the Browns on 35 carries, but held them to just 1-3 inside the red zone. Marcus Mariota, a season worst 37% completion rate, 7.3 yards per attempt and a pick. On the year, Mariota, 58% completions, 8 yards per attempt, just 3 touchdowns and 4 picks on the season. Tampa Bay 2-2 after their 41-31 home defeat to Kansas City. Run game really non-existent, 3 yards on 6 carries. Defense struggled to stop the run, allowing 189 yards on 37 carries. Of course, Tampa Bay was in catch-up mode throughout the game. Tom Brady completed 75% of his passes, 3 touchdowns, 7.4 yards per pass attempt. Season high in yardage and completion rate. Falcons, though, are running for 5.1 yards a carry. Buccaneers giving up 4.3 yards per attempt. Falcons are protecting Mariota, and they are getting points on the board. Play here will be Atlanta at +10. Seahawks and Saints NFL pick Sunday. Wide receiver got Goodwin questionable for Seahawks. New Orleans quarterback Jameis Winston doubtful. Wide receiver Michael Thomas out. Kamara questionable, expected to play through it. Wide receiver Landy questionable, as is their left guard. Their strong safety questionable. Seattle moved to 2-2 after their 48-45 road win at Detroit. Good news for the Seahawks. They moved the football 555 yards. The bad news, the defense gave up 520 yards and 4-4 inside the red zone. Geno Smith completed 77% of his passes, 2 touchdowns, nearly 11 yards per attempt. New Orleans 1-3 after their 28-25 defeat in England here to Minnesota. Saints defense limited run production but allowed 263 yards passing, 39 attempts there. Andy Dalton completed 71% of his passes, a touchdown, and 8.4 yards per attempt. Seahawks have been strong on third down, and Seattle protecting Smith. The player will be Seattle +5. Texans and Jaguars NFL pick here for Sunday. Houston receiver Chris Moore and tight end Brevin Jordan out. On defensive end and linebacker out. Jacksonville wideout Zay Jones questionable. Houston fell to 0-3-1 after their 34-24 home defeat to the LA Chargers. Texans fell behind 27-7 at the half. Got within 3 late. Houston ran the ball just 14 times, but 131 yards. On defense, they did surrender 338 passing yards on 39 attempts. Davis Mills completed 74% of his passes with 2 touchdowns but 2 picks. He averaged 7 yards per attempt for the season. Mills, 62% completion rate, 6.4 yards per attempt. Jacksonville 2-2 after their 29-21 road defeat at Philadelphia. Jacksonville blew a 14-0 early lead. They were hurt by 5 turnovers and gained only 219 yards offensively. They allowed 191 passing yards on 25 pass attempts. Trevor Lawrence, a season low, 48% completions, 2 touchdowns, a pick, and 4 fumbles lost. He did average 7.6 per attempt. This season, Lawrence, 66% completion rate, 7.1 yards per attempt. Only second home game for the Jaguars. They shut out Indianapolis 24-0 in their home game this season. Houston giving up 5.1 yards a carry to opponents, and Jacksonville has a good running back. The play here will be Jacksonville at -7. Steelers and Bills NFL pick here for Sunday. On defense, Pittsburgh left corner and safety out with their right corner questionable. T.J. Watt remains out. Bills are without their tight end and wide receiver. McKenzie questionable. On defense, a tackle and linebacker questionable with their strong safety out. Pittsburgh fell to 1-3 after their 24-20 home defeat to the New York Jets. Steelers offense only 297 yards in the loss, held to under 300 for the third time in 4 games. Pittsburgh did give up 250 yards passing here on 37 attempts. Rookie quarterback Kenny Pickett completed 77% of his passes, 3 touchdowns, 9.2 yards per attempt in that second half of play. Buffalo, they're now 3-1 after their 23-20 road win at Baltimore. Bills overcame a 20-3 deficit late in the second quarter in victory. Buffalo, really, pass defense has been strong, allowing just 124 yards on 29 attempts in the win. Bills gave up 73 rushing yards to a dual-threat quarterback, and that won't be the case here. They won't have to worry about a running quarterback in this game. And the Steelers in their road games gave up 404 yards, 252 passing. The Steelers will be challenged to score in this game. Look for Bills to get up and just kind of milk clock. The player will be Pittsburgh and Buffalo under 45.5. Dolphins and Jets NFL pick Sunday. Miami Dolphin, quarterback Tagovailoa out. Receivers Hill, Waddle, plus their left tackle questionable. On defensive corner is questionable. Jets have a linebacker out. Miami 3-1 after their 27-15 defeat on Thursday Night Football to the Cincinnati Bengals. Dolphins a -2 turnover margin and lost 2 out to an injury in the game. Miami struggled defending the pass, giving up 304 yards on 32 attempts. Teddy Bridgewater in his relief role completed 61%, had a touchdown pick and 9.4 yards per attempt. Jets 2-2 after their 24-20 road win at Pittsburgh. The Jets rallied with the final 14 points in the final 7.5 minutes. The defense led the Jets to the win, holding the Steelers to 297 yards. Zach Wilson, in his season debut, completed half his passes, 50%, a touchdown, a pick, and 7 yards per pass attempt. Bridgewater, a game manager. Remember, he had success backing up Drew Brees with the Saints, and of course, he had a lot of weapons there. He has a lot of weapons here in Miami. The play here will be Miami at -3.5. Titans and Commanders NFL pick here for Sunday. Titans right guard questionable. On defense, a linebacker and safety out. Washington will be without wide receiver Dotson and right tackle on offense. Their tight end Logan Thomas questionable. On defense, Chase Young out and linebacker questionable. Tennessee moves at 2-2 after their 24-17 road win at Indianapolis. Titans offense generated only 243 yards in the win and benefited with a +3 turnover margin. Defensively, Tennessee ground game was lacking there, and they allowed 327 yards on 37 attempts. They actually grounded the run game here. They did a good job against the run against Indy. Of course, they had Indianapolis did have injuries at that position, losing their running backs. Now, Ryan Tannehill did complete 81% of his passes in the win, 2 touchdowns, 6.5 yards per attempt. On the season, the veteran is completing 66%, 7.8 yards per attempt. Washington fell to 1-3 with their 25-10 road defeat at Dallas. Commanders only 297 yards to defeat. Defensively, they limited the Cowboys to only 279 yards, shutting down the run. Carson Wentz completed just 59% of his passes, a touchdown, 2 picks, and 5 yards per attempt. He is completing 62% of his passes for 6 yards per pass attempt on the season. Commanders, the past 2 games, averaging 9 points and 269 yards a game. Commanders' defense has been weak defending the pass. Also, they're allowing over 4 sacks a game. Titans have been good in the red zone. Play here will be Tennessee -1. Bears and Vikings NFL pick here for Sunday. Chicago running back David Montgomery questionable and expected to play. On defense, they got a corner doubtful. Vikings starters healthy. Chicago fell to 2-2 after their 20-12 road defeat at the New York Giants. The Bears' offense produces only 304 yards, and they go 0 of 3 inside the red zone. Chicago ran for 149 yards on 32 carries, but defensively they allowed the Giants to rush for 262 yards on 44 attempts. Justin Fields completed just 50% of his passes for 7.9 yards per attempt. On the season, Field here, 51% completion rate, 7 yards per attempt for Fields. Minnesota 3-1 after their 28-25 win at New Orleans in England here. Vikings limited on the ground, but moved the football through the air. Kirk Cousins did complete 66% of the passes in the win, 7.2 yards per attempt. On the season, the veteran, 63% completion rate, with a 7-season low of 6.6 yards per attempt. Bears getting production running the football with 5.2 yards a carry. Vikings giving up 4.6 yards a carry on the ground. Chicago's been good in pass defense. The play here will be Chicago here at plus the 7.5. '49ers and Panthers NFL pick here for Sunday. San Francisco left tackle out on defense. They're without their starting tackles. Carolina on defensive linebacker and safety questionable. San Francisco moves at 2-2 after their 24-9 home win to the LA Rams on Monday night. Strong defensive performance by the 49ers, holding the Rams to 257 yards. 49ers averaged 4 yards a carry on the ground here in the win. They had a +2 turnover margin, +7 quarterback sacks. Jimmy Garoppolo, 59% completions, 8.9 yards per attempt. On the season, Garoppolo, 61% completion, 7.8 yards per attempt. Carolina fell to 1-3 after their 26-16 home defeat to Arizona. Another poor offensive performance here for the Panthers, gaining only 220 yards. Held to under 300 yards in all 4 games. Dreadful rushing here, 40 yards on 13 carries. Defensively, Panthers did hold the Cardinals at 328 yards, 2 of 5 inside the red zone. Baker Mayfield completed 61% of his passes, 2 picks, and 5.5 yards per attempt. On the season, Mayfield a career low 55% completion, 6.4 yards per attempt. Now, this is a short week for San Francisco, and injuries on the defensive line are the concern. Panthers been good in run defense, and Garoppolo's just not been accurate. Just think a bad spot here for the 49ers. Short week travel. The play here will be Carolina plus 6.5. Cowboys and Rams NFL pick Sunday. Dallas receiver Lamb and running back Pollard questionable. On defense, they have a tackle questionable. Rams starting center out. On defensive corner and safety questionable. Dallas moved to 3-1 after their 25-10 home win to Washington. Cowboys leaned on their defense and gave up 297 yards, 155 passing on 42 attempts. Dallas Cowboys run game sputtered here, just 62 yards on 29 carries. Quarterback Cooper Rush completed 55% of his passes, 2 touchdowns, 8.3 yards per attempt. On the season, Rush 61% completion rate, 7.2 yards per attempt. LA fell to 2-2 after their 24-9 road defeat at San Francisco on Monday night. Rams offense generated just 257 yards. The run game only contributed 57 yards. A -2 turnover margin, 0 of 3 inside the red zone. They allowed 7 sacks. Matthew Stafford completed 67% of his passes, only 5.3 yards per attempt. This season, Stafford is completing 71%, but 6.8 yards per attempt. The Rams' run game just really not helping the offense. Rams giving up 4 sacks a game. The Cowboys' defense averaging nearly 4 sacks a game. Cowboys' pass defense giving up just 4.8 yards per pass attempt. The play here will be Dallas at plus the 5.5. Eagles and Cardinals NFL pick Sunday. On offense, Philadelphia has their left tackle out. On defense, their starters healthy. Cardinals receiver Rondale Moore questionable, as is their left tackle and left guard. Their center is doubtful. On defense, their nose tackle out. Philadelphia 4-0 after their 29-21 home win to Jacksonville. Eagles spotted the Jaguars a 14-0 early lead. Strong defensive performance here, holding the Jaguars to 219 yards and forcing 5 turnovers. Jalen Hurts completed 64% of his passes in the win with 8.2 yards per attempt. On the season, a career high 67% completion rate, 9.1 yards per attempt. Arizona 2-2 with their 26-16 road win at Carolina. Good defensive performance here by the Cardinals, allowing 220 yards and forcing 3 turnovers. Kyler Murray completed 72% in the win, 6.5 yards per attempt. On the season, Murray 65% completion rate, 5.7 yards per attempt. But the Eagles' passing game can really exploit a weak pass defense for Arizona that allows 68% completion rate, 7.4 yards per attempt. Eagles' defense is giving up 5 yards to carry on the ground, which will aid Murray in the passing game. The play here will be Philadelphia and Arizona over 49. Bengals and Ravens NFL pick Sunday. Bengals receiver Higgins and tight end Hurst is questionable. Ravens receiver Bateman out with their left tackle questionable. On defensive linebacker out with corner questionable. Cincinnati moved to 2-2 after their 27-15 home win to Miami. Bengals separated late as the Dolphins lost their starting quarterback to injury. Cincinnati defense did surrender 293 passing yards on 37 carries. Bengals run game generated only 67 yards on 30 carries. Joe Burrow completed 64% of his throws with a season-high 9.3 yards per attempt. Baltimore fell to 2-2 after their 23-20 home defeat to Buffalo. Ravens offense held to 296 yards. They blew a 20-3 lead late in the second quarter. Baltimore run game generated 162 yards on 33 carries. They limited a good Buffalo offense to only 326 yards. Lamar Jackson did complete 69% of his passes, but only 5 yards per pass attempt. On the season, Jackson completed 65% of his passes, 7.6 yards per attempt. Baltimore defense gave him 425 yards, 5 yards per carry on the ground, 315 passing yards, 64% completion rate, and 7.1 yards per attempt. Boy, they're averaging only 2 sacks a game as well, and you got extra rest for Bengals after playing 2 Thursdays ago. Well, the player will be Cincinnati plus 3.5. That was our NFL Pick Show. We've got baseball coming up in a little bit, as well as our morning show, 9 a.m. each time.